back to Smith Motor Works. We're going to check out my daughter and sometimes co-commentator on the channel, Katie's 1994 Cutlass Supreme convertible. Dare to be different. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that homework. Let's go. Let's take a quick lap around this thing and kind of take it all in first, and then we'll go by her piece by piece here. Like I said, definitely a convertible based on the two-door coupe body. Also made a four-door sedan. Unique thing is that Oldsmobile is the only one that got the convertible, and pretty sure that was kind of in response to the unexpected popularity of the just flat awful convertible conversions that were offered based on the pace car from a few years prior. I believe that was 88. Definitely correct me in the comments, but this platform called the W body or the GM10 came out. It was the replacement for the pretty popular but kind of outdated G body rear-wheel drive. So this is kind of one of the better kind of mid-size front-wheel drive cars, but you know, you want a rear-wheel drive car, or expecting one, and they throw this at you. Some people may not like them, but it kind of opened the market up for some new buyers for them. Well, anyway, back when Oldsmobile was really pacing Indy a lot, they had the pace car, and I think it was for 88. A little bit different front end on those. The nose is a little different, but the basic body shell is the same. Well, anyway, traditionally, Indy pace cars have been convertibles, and they didn't have one, so they just made one. You know, it's a hand-built car, beefed up to, you know, make a pace lap, and those worked okay, I imagine. But people like the look of that so much that some other shops started chopping the top off of these things, and well, you know, if you've ever cut the roof off of any car really, but definitely a unit body car, that roof's part of the structure, and that didn't work so well. And I think, I don't know what the total story is, that's out there on the web, but I think they pretty much had to buy them back. But what it told Oldsmobile is, hey, there's a market for this. Somebody would want a convertible version of this. So here we go. A couple years later, they made a legitimate convertible, and it's power top, fully functioning. People kind of, I think they misunderstand what's going on here, and I'll show you when I let the top down. This kind of has like a basket handle on the top of it, and people say, oh yeah, you know, that's the kind of eliminate cow shake, which is a convertible term, or I guess detractor really, but because of the loss of the structure, you know, you can kind of feel it shaking around there. Don't think that's why they left it there. I think they left it there because they would have had to tool another door, because this is the coupe door here with this kind of crazy pillar door handle combo. There's no door handles on the side. If they didn't want this bow that I'll show you in a minute here, they would have had to tool a new door, and that starts getting to be big money, because you got to come up with a new mechanism inside the door to open and close it. You got to change this side glass here, because that's got to come back farther into the door jamb, or you're just retooling the body shell. So I think they tried to take the path of least resistance and basically just use what they had, kind of saw the roof off and put a top sort of over it, and then have a, you know, power quarter window here, which is kind of crazy. The bigger part slides into the body, and the smaller triangle here, that's actually attached to the roof here, kind of folds into the back, and we'll see how that works in a minute here. All right, we're inside. Let's set that top down. Something pretty cool about this car. If you hold the 2 rear window switches down for like 5 seconds, all 4 windows go down. It's magic. It's a couple latches, one on either side. Pretty similar stuff GM's been doing for years. Just kind of swing out, expose the little hook that grabs onto the top of the windshield frame A-pillar here on both sides. Pop that out and got a little switch down here. Start letting in the sunlight or the garage light. Well, how about that? No more roof. I showed you earlier kind of the 2-piece quarter window. I got this one, I rolled it back up so you can see the reason why they did that. If they didn't, you know, you get a huge interference problem here. This is the top frame coming around. There's those hooks I was talking about. Kind of see how they work a little bit better. Kind of clamps it in there, pushes this up there to seal up. Just flip it back open. You know, obviously it needs to be open so it'll catch the little piece of the A-pillar here. There's some like locating pins. There's like a socket for that, and there's a corresponding pin in the top here that goes into that. So, like I said, this is definitely probably some old recycled GM stuff. It looks a whole lot like my dad's '67 Malibu convertible, and it isn't a whole lot different than what was going on with my '94 Mustang GT convertible. So, who knows? You know, a lot of these conversions were done by like American Sunroof Company and Cars and Concepts and stuff. I don't know who did what, but you know, there's vendors that make parts and they all buy them. So what I wanted to show you is that's the reason why they did that kind of funky window. I think it's pretty darn clever how they did it, because you know, they were able to use the stuff from the coupe as much as they could. And here's what I was talking about with the basket handle, or whatever you want to call it. If you got the top down, it's a little different than other convertibles where you still got this. I've seen people call it a roll bar, which, yeah, this would do nothing in a rollover. But the theory that I keep seeing repeated, which I believe is false, is that they left this in here for cow shake. I think they left this in here because they needed an anchor for the door handle mechanism that goes up here. Because if they just stopped it right here, you know, that's a heck of a liability. Somebody's going to, like, split their skull open on that. So kind of put this in here, and it served a couple purposes. You know, one, it made them able to use those door handles, and two, it's a good spot for the interior light or dome light, or whatever you want to call it. They mount them to the bottom here. Probably can't see it from this angle, but it does go right up in the middle where you'd think it would. The downside, I think, to this setup is these door handles just are awful. I mean, they're cool. I mean, it's like a 50s hot rod or something. You know, you got shaved door handles here. It's got door poppers too. Same deal. Just like an old lead sled or something. You know, this is kind of spring loaded and it's popping the door open. It's really pretty neat, and it looks cool and modern. But this is, you know, the era of how do we make it cheaper? You know, we'll take a penny out of it if we can do it, and they did. And this is all just a big chunk of pop metal, which that would be fine. But when you got a big long lever here with a tiny pivot, because this flips out, super easy to break. Got a replacement one on the other side. I mean, they break all the time. It is a little spooky that there's only one place to get them, so I kept my old broken ones because I may have to fab one day. You Not sure. Cool stuff, but not the era of the most durable parts in anything from anyone. Detroit, Japan, Germany, whatever. There was all kind of some flimsy stuff, and unfortunately, a lot of the stuff on these old GMs is kind of, little plasticky, busty things. That's the downside. The good side is they made a lot of them, and you can get them. So this car actually has what's called the graphite interior. It may look black, but it's just really dark gray. They didn't make the convertibles in as many colors, exterior colors, as the coupes, I believe. But you could get some weird combinations. I mean, you could get red with black, black with red. Some interesting stuff. I mean, this is. If I was going to order one, if I could go back in time, this is not what I would order. I'm not a huge fan of red. Probably going to shock some people or make them mad because everybody likes red, resale red. But I don't know. My granddad used to say, couldn't be any uglier if it was red. I don't know about that, but it's not my first choice. The other thing I want to mention is, this looks kind of exposed just because it is. When I got the car, and we'll talk about that, the previous owners, whatever, they never take care of stuff, right? I've always said I've spent more time fixing other people's repairs than I do fixing stuff that's broke. These knuckleheads put wood screws up from the bottom to hold this thing on, and I got on the interstate with the top down, and my fairly hard to get trim piece just went bye-bye, and when I got turned around to go and get it, the mowing crews had already disposed of it. So that's kind of a bummer. So we'll make something. I mean, it isn't like it's I gotta make a front fender for a AC Cobra or something like that. I mean, it's basically a plate with some flanges on it. We'll put some upholstery on it, or I'll have it done. I don't know. Like I said, typical interior issues of the era. Sun gets hot, makes stuff curl up and bend up, but it's all repairable because the way you get to the speakers is you pull the whole dash out, and that sounds horrible, but they made it to where it comes out pretty good. So I can fix some of that stuff that's buckled up there just by taking it out and kind of, screwing and gluing it back together. Not bad. Original radio's gone. Controls on the steering wheel don't work anymore. I mean, but this is 1994. I mean, that's almost 30 years. A lot of stuff still works. This car was optioned out pretty well. It has the bigger motor, engine, whatever you want to call it. The double overhead cam, 24 valve, 3.4 liter. I think the base engine in this was the 3.8 maybe. The way to tell if you got this big engine here, right, is these wheels. I think that's part of the package. This is some big hoops back for 94. These are 16s. I mean, which, cheapo economy cars got bigger wheels than that now, but these are big tires. Big wheels, big tires back in the day, for sure. It may be hard to believe for some people, but 14, 15, 13-inch tires were kind of the norm. So these were super big performance tires. Looks pretty good, Plastic side cladding. That's definitely a kind of a GM. How do we make the car look different? Let's just change that up. The cool thing that I like is this kind of fake 6 headlight system. It's actually 4 headlights and 2 marker lights. The inside lights are your turn signals. Well, the outside ones are too. But look up the Oldsmobile Aerotech. That is a car designed by at the time, he wasn't yet, but he ended up becoming the first African American head of GM design. Amazing guy. I mean, did some cool stuff. Really, his taste and mine definitely overlap, and I think he pushed to get the Aerotech style front end onto these cars, and it's a great fit, man. It just looks really, really aggressive and cool and high tech all at the same time. So even the sedans have some version of that on the front. Obviously, the two doors are going to be a little sportier, but definitely pretty cool. Well, here's something kind of odd about these cars. If you'll notice, there's a little lip on the top of these taillights. This is called the spoiler taillight. Now, you might think it's because of this wing that's mounted on the top here. Well, it's not really. The spoiler that they're talking about is this little kind of bolt-on lip. You can see the edge there on the deck lid. It's just like a piece of trim or something, for architectural stuff. That's the spoiler taillight. So what, right? Well, they made this version, and they made the non-spoiler taillight to where you have a, kind of decreasing radius fillet going down into this. You can't exchange one for the other without having some weird mismatch here. Again, who cares, right? Until you are an idiot like me and you bust one. Then you find out, well, guys are wanting a couple $100 for one of these, so that's kind of a bad day. These are coupe taillights. There's spoiler and non-spoiler, and the sedan ones don't match, and you're kind of out of luck if you break one. They're still out there, but everybody knows what they got. Of course, I know what I got, and they're trying to get you for it. So maybe we'll figure out. I got some busted taillights. I mean, I'll just cut a triangle and plug that hole or something. Hey, get her done, right? You also might have noticed some of this stuff looks really pale and pink and weird, like this wing compared to the deck lid. For the most part, this is all original paint, but for some reason, I think they may have piece painted this car. Like painted some stuff in one place and not the other, not the same as the other, put together, because it's like the clears popped off of this. You can see right here, this is completely gone, and then this piece right next to it, it's partially gone. GM wasn't the only one having issues with paint adhesion back in the day, but I think they're probably the most famous, if that's the right word, for having those kinds of things. If you've seen some cars from the 80s, 90s, to where it's usually on the hood, which this is not, but that's where you see it. I think there may be a spot or two or something on it, but this had, and I just did an experiment, just total rattle can, because we repair, we're not restoring these kinds of things. We drive them all the time. Didn't mention it, but this gets driven. Me and my son Tommy, that has the Fiero, check out that series. It's pretty cool. The Indy Fiero. We kind of swap back and forth depending on which one of these is running. And he drives it a lot, I drive it a lot, and we put a lot of miles on both of these cars. They get driven all the time. This was as pink and goofy looking as that deck lid spoiler, and I didn't do anything. This was just like where we're standing, because the car needs to be painted. Okay, we got some metal work to do in the back. You probably saw the kind of bubbly stuff around the wheel. So what? It looks better in the hole. But I was like, hey, if I just scuff this up and just spray some clear over it, is it gonna be a 21 footer? Can we get away with that to where it doesn't look so bad? Because this right here looked pretty much like this. So you can imagine if you get this giant pink stripe right on the front. And my grandpa used to only wax the fenders in the hood of his car, because that's all he saw. That's kind of how I perceive it. I'm like, well, this is what I see when I walk up to the car. How do I make it look better? And you can kind of see the line. I just taped it off. You can see, you should be able to see it right there. I just taped it off right at the factory pinstripe, and scuffed it up and sprayed some clear on it. I mean, and it's, you can see the sanding marks in it. I didn't cut and buff, nothing, man. I just sprayed some clear on it, and it sort of made it look better, I guess. Like I say, you know, I spent maybe 2 hours doing it max. I mean, that's probably on the high side. Yeah, look, oh man, there's just some deep scratch marks in it that were already in there, but some of them I made too, trying to get the paint to stick. I don't care. Like I said, it's all got to be painted, but you know, the paint underneath is so oxidized that the pigment, the red pigment, just wouldn't come back out. So that's why you get this huge mismatch here. But I tell you, it's so funny that people don't consider gloss level with color. This was pink, you put gloss on it and it becomes dark red. Color theory is a weird thing. So it needs painted, but we'll get there. My daughter was talking about painting in a different color at one point, but I think she kind of decided to keep it red because this is kind of painted like a Mopar. If you know what I'm talking about there, I guess probably everything's painted like that. But it used to be like GMs and Fords, the exterior was the body color, and then under the hood and stuff was painted. Like maybe under the hood was satin black or matte black, and then the trunk might have been, you know, spatter paint, if you know what that is. Well, the Mopars, the Chrysler products back in the day, were it was just like they dunked them in the paint. Everything was painted body color, and that's how this is. Under the hood's all red, door jambs are red, which they would have been on anything else, but it's not hard to spray door jambs, but spraying under the hood, that's a mess, you know. You got all kinds of stuff, and you can't get to everything. So doing a color change on these is a lot more involved. So I think we're going to stick with the red, but we'll see. Who knows? Anything goes. Dare to be different, right? Kind of talking about the good and bad of these cars, and there's a lot of good, but there's some that's not so good. And I mentioned the door handles. This is one that I've replaced since we bought it. They're, like I said, I think it's a really cool idea. Looks neat. You know, when you see the car from a distance, it's like shaved door handles. It's like a old custom or something. It's super cool. They hinge on the bottom, and you kind of pull out on the top, and it pops open. That works great, right? You can already see this one's already starting to goof up, and it's not that old. It doesn't sit flush anymore because they're just made to bend. Unfortunately, well, they're not intentionally made to bend, but that's what ends up happening. There's a big sheet metal cover here. You can see going up. And inside of that, there's a linkage rod that goes down and pushes on the door mechanism. It's really clever, but it's like, maybe they ran out of money. Who knows? But you can get in here. You can keep adjusting these to where, you know, you don't have a whole lot of effort to pull it open. I probably need to adjust this again, but it's already starting to get kind of tweaked, and it's hard not to do that because I'm going to show you a broken one here that I saved. This is the one that was on the side of this car. This is the broken one. It's crazy, man. It's all one piece. I mean, there's the handle, you can see, and the big old crack. And there's kind of the trim plate, which it makes sense to make it in one piece. However, you got a big, long handle and a really short travel, and there's no way I'm going to be able to do this with one hand, but well, I guess you can. That's as far as it goes, okay? You see that? That's it. When you pull that door handle out, that's all you got, and you need to adjust it to where this kind of cadmium plated piece right here, right there, the one with the two holes in the pivot, that needs to be able to push down on the linkage rod. This is just a counterweight. This big kind of dull silver piece. That needs to pull down or push down from your lever moving here and pop the door open. Well, when it's brand new and it's a sunny day outside, nice and warm, no problem. You can do this with one finger. But when it gets cold outside and the grease gets thick and you get water and ice forming on these seals, well, it takes a whole lot of effort. And when you got an old car that's got got a handle like a refrigerator door, you can push on that button and overcome whatever friction, whether it's the grease holding it shut or ice or whatever making a seal. You can pop that loose. Well, this is all you got. So you pull on that like King Kong and it goes and busts right there, or right there like that. I don't know. I hate blaming engineers for stuff because that's my line, and you know I got to build to a cost a lot of times, and I can't do what I know is the best thing because I got to meet the price on stuff, and it's a bummer because you know you get maligned by a lot of guys in the shop or the end user or whatever, and nobody wants to do that, but it does happen. And I'm not saying these guys aren't infallible. Maybe they were just a bunch of knuckleheads and they thought this would work and it broke. I don't know. But I kind of think with some of the other stuff they did on this car that's pretty cool, that they really wanted to make something neat, and this was just one of those things that slipped through the cracks. So, my point earlier about why do I keep the old junk? Because I may need to make one of these one day. Can I improve on it? I don't know. Gonna have to figure something out, or we'll have a rope or a dog chain on here that I pull. I hope not, but like I said, there's only one manufacturer making these, and that's not a good sign. Hopefully they get more popular and the aftermarket comes up and we get some really good stuff to fix some of the little flaws that it has, but we will see. This is kind of a cool feature on these cars. You got your 4 bucket seats here. I'm in the back seat right now. Get your 4 bucket seats with the big old duct tape patch, but that's a non-factory option. But see these little pull tabs on here. This flips open, and you got a sort of a little mini console. Not a lot of cup holders back in those days, but they did have them. Some kind of raggedy looking flock compartment in here. But here's the part I want to show you. This upper tab right here. Wow, that sounds like a crypt door opening. But yeah, that's kind of a funny thing here. We'll read that in a second. But there's a pass-through that goes into the trunk, so you can put your snow skis when you're going to Aspen, or more likely for me, fishing poles or some 2x4s or something like that. But they didn't show those latter two in the ads. They all had some skis or something here. But it basically says, hey dummy, don't put stuff in here or you'll bust the rear glass in the top when it comes down. So I don't use it. I haven't used it yet, but I'm prone to forget things. But I still think it's pretty neat that they thought to do that, because I guess the coupes have that too. I don't know. Correct me in the comments if they do or don't. But it's still cool, regardless of it's an Oldsmobile convertible or Oldsmobile only thing. I like it. It's when I was in product design, we used to call those things a delighter, and it's pretty neat. Dare to be different, right? So in the back seat area, the speakers on this setup I think are different than on a coupe. They're in the side panels here, and then there's 2 more up in the dash that we looked at earlier. But the joys of owning a car from somebody that thought they knew what they're doing. They pulled the stock ones out, tried to put some bigger ones in there, cut all the wiring up, and went into the inner structure with some tin snips and just hacked it up. I mean, it's if you stuck your hand in there, it'd be like shaking hands with Freddy Krueger or something like that. It's a nightmare. There's lots of sharp edges, and I try to kind of file and trim that stuff up because I don't want somebody else to get hurt in the future trying to work on this thing. But I got some speakers coming to put it back together. We've got a decent receiver in here. So this isn't going to be like some competition audio car or something like that, but it's kind of nice to be able to hook up your phone and listen to stuff, and at least get some navigation information on where you're going. And they totally jacked this up here. But yeah, you can see some evidence of the top leaking. But what I found out is they just didn't have the windows rolled up. I mean, it's nasty and stained, but it seals up pretty good. I mean, I think if you got T-tops or sunroof or a convertible, maybe you should learn to embrace that, because it probably does leak a little bit unless you keep after it a lot. But this isn't too bad. Typical, for the age. Some of the seams in the plastic is popped and moved out of the place, but it's not garbage. I mean, I would love to get better examples or replace it, but most of the stuff is usable, and it's just not. I cleaned it. I mean, it was kind of gross when we got it. The guy, I don't know if he bought it off a tweaker or he was one himself, but right down in here, after I drove it home, there was a tactical tomahawk and a camp axe in there, and I was like, well, he was planning for some trouble, evidently, or who knows, maybe he had some, he was a superhero and he was planning on this next mission. I don't know, but I took them out and put them somewhere else, because that's a difficult story to tell the state trooper of why you think you need those. But yeah, this right here, I don't know what the heck's going on, but that's popped loose from the dash. But it's just screw bosses that are busted. I think they were trying to put, because it had no radio in it at all when I got it, and put this JVC head unit in here. And I think they probably had the dash apart and went screw gun happy and broke a bunch of stuff. So we'll fix it. Hey, we got a 3D printer, we got hot melt glue, we got duct tape, we got all the things we need to put her back together, which is what we're gonna do. Well, here you go. This is what is powering this beast. GM 60-degree V6, double overhead cam. The earlier versions are actually marked twin dual cam on top here. I don't know when the change happened or why, but I suspect that they were trying to kind of dovetail into what was going on with the Quad 4, which is like the last Oldsmobile engine, if you heard of that. I mentioned the pace car earlier. Pretty sure pace car had a really hot version of that Quad 4. Quad 4 was kind of a breakthrough engine for at least American cars. Not anything exciting by global standards, but at least something different to show that we could sort of play on that level. And they quickly backed off of that. I remember like a Cutlass Calais with a Quad 4. I mean, that was a pretty hot car, and that was back in the day that I want to mention. Oldsmobile figured out that anything Cutlass would sell. So at one point, and you can look this up, I think it only happened for a year or two, there were 5 different cars. I mean, completely different cars. I don't mean models. I mean platforms that were all Cutlass. It was like, if we put Cutlass on something, it will sell. So you had like Cutlass Sierra, Cutlass Supreme, Cutlass Calais, Cutlass Cruiser. I mean, it was nuts. I mean, they're just like kind of like Mercury did with the Cougar imagery and badging. It's like, well, let's put a cat on it, man. Come to the sign of the cat. They'll buy it because it was popular. Everybody wanted that. Kind of the same thinking here. This is a neat car in a lot of ways, and it's also kind of a weird car. It's just definitely, these engines are pretty compact until you get into this version, and it's like, man, it's like a Boss 429 or something. I mean, you could maybe throw something in here and it hit the ground. Anywhere else, it ain't going to. It is packed in there. I mean, to change those rear plugs, you got to pull the engine forward. It's Not cool. I had to mess with the alternator on this thing. I had to drop the cradle and be careful not to unplug the steering column, steering linkage. It was yeah, not a fun day, but I don't hate it. I think it's a really cool engine. I don't know why I didn't get more usage in other things, hot rod wise. I think probably because it's just hard to beat the 3800. You get that with the supercharger on it, and this doesn't seem as cool anymore. Even though this is a way more sophisticated engine, there just isn't any performance for it. You put a blower on this thing, and it's holy cow. You got like 150% Offenhauser or 3/4 of a Novi or something. If you know any of that stuff from your Indy racing history, this is a pretty high tech engine. They get some crap, I guess, or some bad press because of the timing belts, but this has got like 160,000 miles on it. I don't know if it's been changed or not. Everything's good. They're kind of loud, but it's not like junky loud to where that was a problem with the Quad 4 is they had a chain driven cams, and I think they were pretty loud, and I bet they were, and probably sound like my Sportster or something when I'm rolling around in second gear. I get that, but still pretty neat. And this, like I said earlier, has the same power as a Mustang of the era. Now the gearing's completely different, so I think quarter mile times for these, this is magazine time, so those are high, low, whatever. I think this would run like a 16 flat, which yeah, you got to put this in context because that sounds horrible by today's standards. That's not slow for 1994. That's when a Mustang was running 15.4, which is also not slow. But if you want to talk about modern terms and racing from a dig, yeah, this would get toasted by a Mustang from the same era until you got on the interstate. This car will go from 50 to 90. I mean, I'm not talking about pinning you back in your seat, but it's fun. They did make manual versions. I don't know if they made manual convertibles, but they made manual versions with this engine, and I bet that was a blast to drive because I think this is 225 horsepower. I could be off by, I could be high by like 10 or so, something like that, but who cares? I mean, it's enough that it makes it fun. I've got a Fiero if you follow the channel, which of course you do, and I think this would be a pretty fun engine in a Fiero because you can put anything in a Fiero, right? It's a modern tea bucket, right? But if you're going to do that, you're going to probably go with the 3800 supercharged or a North Star or 4.9 Cadillac. But I think this would be a good second choice if you had one. If you had one that ran and drove, pop it in there, man. Pretty cool little motor. Well, that's what it sounds like. Well, there you have it. That's another one in the can. Kind of a cool old car. Definitely a project you may not consider, but it's a good car. It's GM. You get parts for it. They're still out there. Front wheel drive. Hey, people love them, people hate them. Really doesn't matter. Like I said, pretty much the same power of a Mustang of the era, and it's a convertible. And if you don't like Oldsmobile, you can get the Chevy version or the Pontiac version or even the Buick version, but not going to get a convertible. That's the unique thing about Oldsmobile and kind of why I like them, because they dare to be different. We'll see you next time on Smith Motorworks.